Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Let's do that again. Good morning, Rabbi Isai. It wasn't with such kavana. That's why I had to redo it. How's everybody doing? Rabbi Mordechai Ashkenazi, Shalom Aleichem. It's good to see you. Today's shir sponsored Lini Nishmas, Imi, Rusvas Mordechai. And this is huge. Rabbi said this is huge. Elio Berger, Siyu Mashas. It's unreal. It took him, I read the email on Friday, it took him 8.5 years, extra year, because it was on again, off again, the usual. But it's all par for the course, it's normal. In honor of making a Siyu Mashas, it's unreal. 2.5 of those 8.5 years he did with us every single day. He's on, he watches on YouTube and the podcast. So he's before brachas, before a lot of you guys. So tremendous mazel tov. The bad news, Rabbi Isai, is, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking to yourself, okay, so when I make a Siyu Mashas, I'm also going to sponsor. No. You're not going to wait 7 years to sponsor. I'm sorry. That's not how it works here. All right. We also have Refuah Shlema for the Choylei Mishpachas HaShiur. Oh, this is not good. Chaim ben Chano, Moshel Chonem ben Molei, and Simcha Nochem ben Yehudis Dasi or Daso Hadaso. Simcha Nochem, we're going to start calling him Simcha Nochem from now on. No more this Stephen. People don't even know how to pronounce his name. Stefan, PH, is it Stephen? Stephen Sokolo. Simcha Nochem. It's a lot easier. They call him Simcha. Should have Refuah Shlema. They all should have Refuah Shlema. Real quick. Dear Rebelli, this is from Yaakov Rosner. You can't imagine what joy I had at Shabbos when I opened my phone to do the regular learning schedule and saw the comeback of the 8-minute daf. I love so much. Something I always looked forward to, as well as your remarkably well-explained day-to-day shir. A big yeshur koach to you and all the devoted staff members working so hard to make this happen. Ashrechi Yisrael sheish magashir, Daf Yomi kamoicha, Yaakov Rosner, yeshur koach. You know, I'm so not used to doing the 8-minute daf that I did it last night. Everything was great. I sent it to Reuven Chait, and then I went to sleep. At 12:30 I went to sleep. I forgot to check if he sent it back to me. He sent it back, and I forgot to send it out. I sent it out this morning. All right, I hope Yosef didn't wait up for me till 3 in the morning. It's very possible he did. Rabbi Isai, this seems to be a major problem. I need somebody to get involved here. My streak is it's a little shaky. I found out from the streak record holder, David Hagal, that he's not so sure. I mean, it's up. It's almost like the presidential thing. Like some people are to here, to there, and I don't know what to do. There's a shiloh whether the day I arrived in Eretz Yisrael, I didn't give the shir, but I gave the shir beforehand and I sent it in, and there was a shir every day. Does that ruin the streak? And since I see he's hesitant and he doesn't want to give me the streak, and I think that happened, believe it or not, I'm not kidding, on day 365. Yisrael, it's not a streak? He says it's not a streak. What's going on? Avigdor Fold said it is a streak. If I would have known, I would have given the shir. I would have got up and given the shir. Rabbi Isai, so I did something else. I'm going for something else. I put it behind me, 600. If anybody could guess what the 600 is, $600 gift certificate from MDY. What is 600? Has to do with Masechtas Eruvin. Anybody want to give a jab at it? Want to take a jab? Somebody? Nobody? Noam, what is it?
Since you started the share.
Too easy. All right, this one is a little difficult. Today is what?
600 printouts on Eruvin.
Ding. Very good. I'm adding it to your Shatchanos. Very good. 600 charts. Rabbi say 600 charts in Masechtas Eruvin. Wow, very good, no? Very good. Very impressive. Okay. $600, the gift certificate. This is real dollars, my friend. This is real dollars from MDY. All right, so just real quickly, we're only 2 weeks away from the Siyum. Mordechai, it was Mark back in the day when he promised to do the video. So whoever has an Eruv video or wants to do one, at least tell us about it so we could prepare for it. Tell us by tomorrow, please.
I want to point out there's another person now. Hillel Kamiansky is over Iceland as we speak, and he's watching live.
I want to see a video of that. A video, pictures over Iceland. Hillel, wow. All right, Hillel, where's Eli? Is Eli on? Ala Kamiansky's. Beseder. Today, Rabbi Isai is Daf Tzadik Aleph, 90 daf into Masechtas Eruvin. It's incredible, 90 daf, 600 charts. Probably will never happen again. Even in Chulin, we had a lot of charts. Never this kind of volume. So we are holding Daf Tzadik Aleph, Amud Aleph on the top, 4 lines down. Ran through these 3 lines, pretended they were easy. A little bit of a complication in Rashi. Not complication, it's just a little bit more than I wanted to go into. So we'll pretend that we did it and we'll go weiter. Tanyik of Asay the Rav, Tanyik of Asay the Rav Yehuda. We have a brisa that is exactly like Rav and exactly like Rav Yehuda, 2 different halachas. Rav, as we recall from yesterday, Rav is of the opinion that if you have a rooftop and there are 2 residents below the roof, and you cannot discern, you can't tell that there's a wall in between the 2 residents. When you're on the roof, you don't see anything. There's no anything. There's no indication that there's a wall below. Therefore, we do not say good asik, not like in this picture. This is Shmuel. We don't say that the wall goes up. And if you don't say the wall goes up, we have a major problem according to Rav and Rabbanan. The 2 reshuyos, these 2 blue arrows, they pop up through the roof. And what happens is when you're on this side of the roof, you have the other side that's open to you because you don't have a good asik that's separating you. And you're open to a makom that's aser. And when you're open to a makom that's aser, you can't carry there only 4 amas. It's like a carmelis. It's open to makom aser. So we're going to see a raya to Rav. And Tanya Kabasoi, the Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda is of the opinion, we went through the shittas yesterday. Remeir holds that you have a gag, chotzer, karfaf. They're 3 reshuyos. They're independent of each other. They're not connected. So you cannot go from a gag to a karfaf, from a karfaf to a chotzer. And according to Reb Shimon, in Reb Yehuda is the one that said this. Reb Yehuda learns that Reb Shimon holds that you could go from one to the other. Karfaf to chotzer, chotzer to karfaf. We had this from a Masechtas Shabbos. And I'll show you what the... Maybe I won't show you here. Here. Remember this chart. You go from a karfaf to a chotzer and a chotzer to a karfaf. And from the gag to the chotzer. They're all one. So we have a brisa that says just like the way Rav Yehuda learns in Reb Shimon. Tanya Kavasei the Rav, Tanya Kavasei the Rav Yehuda. Oh, here we go again. Looking for the... Oh, here he is. Called Tanya Kavasei the Rav. And this is going to be the sheet of Remeir that we're familiar with. Kol Gagoy Seir Rishus Achasin. All the rooftops in the city, even if they're owned by different individuals, you could go from one to the other, provided that there's no height difference. So Remeir is of the opinion that within the Gag category, you can go from one to the other. Within the Chotzer category, you go from one to the other. But you cannot go from a Gag to a Chotzer. But it's also to take from a gag up there to the chotzer below, and that's Remeir Shita that we're geyser tail b'reshus harabim. Perhaps you might come to carry in a reshus harabim. You'll go from the reshus harabim onto a beam in reshus harabim, which is a reshus hayachid. You might come to carry from reshus harabim to reshus hayachid. That's a problem. Excuse me. The kelim sheshavsu b'chotzer, and if you have a kli that started Shabbos off in the yard, in the chotzer, mutar letaltalon bechotzer, you're permitted to carry it within your chotzer, even without an eruv, and even from one chotzer to another chotzer. Begagin, what if, let's say you have a ball that ended up on a roof, and is there Erev Shabbos? So mutar letaltalon begagin, you're allowed to take that ball, if it started at Erev Shabbos, on the roof, you're allowed to go from the roof to another roof, but you're not allowed to take a ball out of your house and bring it to the roof and start going to the roofs. It has to be there from before Shabbos. Ubevachli gag gavoya asoro inomuch asoro divrei Rabbi Meir. As long as the rooftops are equal in height, they're not. You don't have one that's higher than the other one by 10 tfachim. What if it is? Then we have a problem of tel b'rishus harabim. People might come to confuse this with a beam in middle of rishus harabim. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Okay, so this is Rabbi Meir. We are looking for chachamim because Rav is explaining chachamim. The machlokes between Rav and Shmuel, do you say that there's an invisible good asik mechitzta, an invisible wall that separates apartments below, and it comes through the rooftop? This invisible mechitzah, do we say it on a roof or not? That's a shaila in chachamim. Here it is. This is exactly Rav. Every rooftop, it's one roof, but every roof that's above another residence, here's two front doors, so we have two residents. So every roof, rishus la'atzmai. It's an individual rishus, and therefore, ve'emitatalim by ela ba'arba. And this is mamish shitas Rav. You could only carry 4 amas. According to Shmuel, you're permitted to carry within the entire roof, not the entire roof, but that section of the roof, from the invisible mechitza and back, and from the visible mechitza that way. But you could carry the entire roof. Why? Because according to Shmuel, you have rishus hayachid. You have 4 walls here, because we do invoke good asik. According to Rav, there's no good asik. We don't have this middle wall. Therefore, it's wide open to a makom that's asur to you. And it's open to a makom that's asur to you. You can't carry at all. You could carry 4 amas. So it says here, mamish mefurish like Rav. So here's a brayza like Rav. Tanya Kavaseh Rav Yehuda. And here we have a great raya to Rav Yehuda, who explains Reb Shimon, that according to Reb Shimon, they're all one category. Chotzer, gar, karfaf, all one, and I could go from one to the other, from the other to the other. Omar Rebbe, a Maaseh Shahaya, an exciting story, an exciting Eruvin story. So here's Reb Shimon. We're looking for Reb Shimon. What does Reb Shimon hold when it comes to these 3 categories? Gag, Chotzer, Karfaf. Here it is. We're learning Torah by Reb Shimon in a place called Tkaya. We used to take oil on Shabbos. We had to go to the mikveh. So we took our oil, today it's soap, shampoo, va'aluntis, and a towel. And how do we get to the mikveh? There's Rishus Harabim, there's Carmels. How do we get there? Migag legag, umigag lechotzer, umechotzer lechotzer, umechotzer lekarpav, umekarpav lekarpav acher. We jumped, we had a route. We avoided all Carmelises, all Rishus Harabims, by going from rooftop to rooftop, from karfaf to roof, from a chotzer. We went through until we got to the mikveh with our things in our hand. Obviously, as we explained before, the towel had to start out on a rooftop or in a chotzer. It couldn't start out in your towel closet or in your shower, because that's already a problem. You can't take it out from your house. Okay, so start out you put it in your own private domain. You're not worried somebody's going to steal it. Shabbos morning, you go to the mikveh, you take your towel, your shampoo, jump from roof to roof, weiter gegangen. Now you don't want to leave it in the mikveh. Some other guy's going to come and take your stuff. So you bring it back. That's the heter here. So I have a gewaldige picture. I know the other picture was boring, so I made a shmaka picture. Now you're asking what the Sefer Torah is. That's true. But here's a guy. It was mamish a steer minei bay. It was a chassid with one of those prayer shawls. I didn't like that, but it worked out great. It became a towel. Here's his towel, and he went from Gag to Chotzer to Karva until he got over here to the Mayon, to the nice river, and some say it was even like in Tveria. It was a hot river. Not a problem. And nowadays it's a little bit more of an issue. We're not going to go into it. Are you allowed to be roichet? It's not roichet. Fine. Omar Rabbi Yehuda, and another story, Ma'aseh b'shas hasakana, where the Goyim said we can't learn Torah. V'yinu ma'alim sefer Torah. So now here goes the same picture. Use it twice. Grab a sefer Torah, and they went the same route. Mechotzer legag, mechotzer lekarfaf, likros boy. Omar loy ein shas hasakana raya. when it comes to doing mitzvahs, when the Goyim tell us not to do mitzvahs, so Chachamim lowered the standards. They said, okay, you could go from chatzah to chatzah. Don't bring me a raya that in general I could carry a baseball from a chatzah to a gag. Ein lavi raya. Ein shesas kana raya. Fine. Says the Gemara. We can make a hard pause here for a second. Let's see. Moshe Zared is on. That's great. We saw him already the other day. Reb Avram Epstein. Shalom Aleichem. How are you? Neighbor downstairs. Haven't seen. You see, I have to go on Zoom to see my neighbor that lives 2 floors below me. Yaakov Razin, Yishkoich for your email. Reb Nachum Katz, I see your shoulder, but I know you're there. I saw you before. Now I see you. Thanks. Shmuel Veffer, Shalom Aleichem. How are you? All right, we could go weiter now. Reb Shimon Oimer, Echod Gagen. So we learned, according to Rav Yehuda at least, Reb Shimon says, rooftops, chatzeros. Rabbi Twersky, what are you doing up so late? What is it? It's like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning over there? Larry Bayim. Okay, Givaldik. By the way, you made my whole trip over there in Chicago, I have to tell you. I was getting a little nervous. But it was great to have you there at night. Shkoyach. Omar Rav, halacha kirib Shimon. The halacha is that gagos, chatzeros, karfifiyos, they're all one rishos. V'hu shloi ervu. Aval ervu loy. So now we have a machlokes Rav and Shmuel. According to Rav, this halacha that you're allowed to go from a chotzer to a gag and a gag to a karfav, etc., is when there's no eruv. Because if there's an eruv, we are concerned people might take stuff out of their own house and bring it to the chotzer. Once it gets to the chotzer, they're going to start bringing it to the gag, etc. So memela, this is halacha when there's no eruv, and this is going to basically take us through today's daf. This question, so we have to pay attention. This that Reb Shimon says that you could go from a gag to a chotzer to a gag and a karfav, etc. It's all one. Says Rav, provided there's no eruv. It's almost counterintuitive. You think that it's the opposite. No. If there's an eruv, there's a lot of stuff that comes out of your house, goes into the chotzer, and you're going to get confused. You're going to start taking things that came out of your house. You're not going to realize. Without an eruv, you're not allowed to take anything out of your house into the chotzer. The eruv allows you to take something from your house into the chotzer. If there's no eruv, so whatever's in the chotzer is in the chotzer. So that I could take from the chotzer to the gag, there's no problem. But once you have an eruv, and you're allowed to take stuff out of your own house, so the kids start taking their ball out of the house into the chotzer, and before you know it, they say, oh, you're allowed to go from a chotzer to the gag. So now they're taking it onto the rooftop. But that's also because it just came from the house to the rooftop, and that's also. Rabbi, I want to tell you, I see Nachum Sakala, Simcha Nachum Sakala on Zoom. I haven't seen his face. I know he doesn't want to show his face. I guess he's all hooked up to stuff. Oh, here he is. Shalom Aleichem. You're in the hospital still? In the hospital. No Yervayim. Well, it's great to see you. You should have a refuah shleima. We're down for you every day. Your name is on the board. I don't know if you were there in the beginning of this year. You were there yesterday, the day before. Should have a refuah shleima, whatever's going on. But you're looking good. Torah is going to be mechayu. It's a tremendous chizuk for everybody. In the hospital, and this is not the first time I saw him on there. The other day also I mentioned he's there. So Baruch Hashem, thank you. Let's go back a line. There's no eruv. But once they make an eruv, you're not permitted to go from the chotzer to the gag. Why? The gazrin and dilma asel apuke mane. You might take out some kalim, the batim from within the house. Lechotzer is going to end up in the chotzer, and from there it's going to end up other places. Ushmuel Amar bein yirvu bein shelo yirvu. According to Reb Shimon, you're allowed to take, even if you made an eruv. We're not concerned that something's going to end up from your house onto the rooftop or into the chotzer, the next chotzer. You know what's in the chotzer, what started Shabbos in the chotzer, what didn't start. That's not an issue. V'chein Omar Rabbi Yochanan, and so said Rabbi Yochanan to Rav. Right? Rabbi Yochanan was in Eretz Yisrael. Rav was the Gol Adar in Bavel. So Rabbi Yochanan tells Rav, Mila Chashcha, who whispered to you this halacha? Who told you that it has to do with the eruv and not an eruv, made a different nafkamina? Rashi is not goyrus these words. Mila Chashcha. Tosfos says it seems like all the Gemaras bring it as if they didn't care about Rashi, so that's why I'm reading it. Bein yirvu, bein lo yirvu. it doesn't. It's not negea because maybe it doesn't fit in so well. As Tosfos points out, ben eruv ben shelo eruv. Fine. Even with an eruv, where people might take out stuff from their house into the chatzar and it might end up somewhere else into another chatzar, not a problem. Maskiv lo Rav Chizda. Let's understand the Shmuel of Rabbi Yochanan. Yoimru shnei kelim b'chatzar achas zeh mutar v'zeh aser. Think about it. You have a fork that you left on your barbecue in your backyard, and it was there Erev Shabbos. So that fork says Shmuel, says says Rabbi Yochanan and Shmuel. It's not a problem. That fork you take from one chatzar to the other. Not only that, the knife in your drawer in your kitchen, that's in the house, you could take out from your house and bring it into the chatzar, but you can't bring it to another chatzar. Okay, so now a person is in his backyard and he has a knife and a fork in front of him. Who tells him which one he could carry to the next chatzar? The fork that was there before Shabbos, he could carry to the next chatzar. The knife, no. How is he going to make the distinction? How is he going to know? How is he going to realize? How is he going to remember? Zeh mutar v'zeh aser. Says the Gemara, Reb Shimon Tamei Deli Gazar. We're not concerned. This doesn't bother us at all. Why? This nan Omer Reb Shimon Lamad Dava Doima L'Sholish Chatzeres Hapsucha Zu L'Zu Psucha Zu. I feel like every sugya we learned, we did Chazara 3 times. Says Reb Shimon, this is similar. What's similar? So I couldn't really find the picture. It's hidden somewhere in my giant book. But if you recall, we had the sugya of 3 people sitting next to each other. The middle guy and 2 guys next to him, he could share their eruv, not share the eruv. The Gemara says over there, it's similar to this case. You have 3 chatzeres, and the middle guy is sitting right here. And the outer guy, the guy on the right and the guy on the left, made an eruv with the guy in the middle. So the halacha is that they are allowed to, and we had a whole discussion, can you go this way, can you go that way? The bottom line is that the guy in the center, he can share with the guys on the side. But the guys on the side, they cannot bring stuff in from one chatzah to the other. They didn't make an eruv. The guy on the right didn't make an eruv with the guy on the left. The guy on the right made an eruv with the guy in the center. The guy on the left made an eruv with the guy in the center. But they didn't make an eruv with each other, so you have to be careful not to go this way. But what's going to happen is that the guy on the right is going to take his baseball and bring it over here. The guy on the left is going to bring his mitt and put it over here. Eventually, it might end up that the guy's baseball is going to end up all the way over here, because the guy in the center is going to give it to him. So that's the machlokes in the Gemara that we had. Are we concerned? Says Rav Shimon, not concerned that things are going to travel from side to side, even though it's asur. No, we're not concerned. People know to be careful. The guy in the center, he could dance on both chasanas. He could take from him, he could take from him. We're not concerned it's going to somehow travel. Chacham say we are concerned. Very important to remember that. Chacham say we're concerned. We have 3 chatzeros that are open to each other, and they're open to the Rishus Harabim, the Eruv Shtei Achitzonis and Mitzayis. And the guys on the side made an Eruv with the guy in the middle. What's the halacha? He mutar zimah. The middle guy is mutar with the outer guys. Vehe mutar zimah, and the outer guys are mutar with the guys in the center. With the guy in the center. Ubeiz Achitzonis. But the 2 outer guys, asurim zumzu, they cannot carry from one to the other. V'loi gazar dima asla pukei mana. And when Reb Shimon wasn't concerned that perhaps somebody's going to take an object, it's going to travel to the center guy, and from there, mysteriously, it's going to end up on the other side. We're not concerned that the 2 outer guys are going to somehow switch stuff and carry from one to the other. So 2 by us, just because we have a knife and a fork, and one is mutter to carry, and one is asur. We're not concerned that the knife is somehow going to end up from my house, from the drawer of my house, into somebody else's roof, into somebody else's chatzar. Not a concern. Masar Rav Sheishes. So he has a kasha on Rav. Reb Shimon Oimer, Echad Gagois, Echad Chatzerois, Echad Karpifiois. It's in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah we learned this. What does Reb Shimon say? The 3 categories, Gagois, Chatzeros, Karpifiois, Rishus Achasein Lekelim Sheshavsu B'Soicham, they are considered one category, provided that it's Kelim Sheshavsu B'Toicham. These are vessels that were there from Erev Shabbos. V'loi Lekelim Sheshavsu B'Toicham Bayis. This doesn't apply to vessels that were in a house when Shabbos came in. So he has a very nice chap over here. How did a kli come from his house to some chutzner? How did it get there? How are you permitted to take something out of your kitchen and bring it into the chutzner? Obviously, there's an Eruv. Hillel Kamiansky, I see you on. So how come I don't see you? I want to see what you look like. Here we go. Are you able to show what's going on the plane? I don't see that you're on a plane. I see a bunch of dark. The people are sleeping. It's the middle of the night. Oh, okay, I see. Very nice. Yavaldik. So we have, literally, by me, side to side, we have Stephen Sakala in the hospital, and we have Hillel Kamiansky flying over Greenland. Yavaldik. All over the world. In all sorts of funny places. If you're telling me there's enough community between Eruv and no Eruv, but you, Rav, say that you cannot carry vessels from a chotzer to another chotzer, from a chotzer to another rooftop, if there's an Eruv involved. Why? Because you might take something out of your kitchen. But wait a minute. It says in the Mishnah that this only applies to things that were shoyvis in the yard before Shabbos. What do you mean? How do you have a case of something that wasn't shoyvis in the yard? How could you possibly take something out of your house and bring it into the chutzner? That's case number 2. Not for kalim that you took out on Shabbos. But how did you take it out on Shabbos? What do you shake it? No, obviously you have an eruv, and you took it out on Shabbos. But do me a favor, don't take that kli that you took it out on Shabbos to the next chutzner. Okay, but you're talking about that you have an eruv. Otherwise, how do you even get to step 1? Take it out of your house. Again, if we're talking about a situation where there's an eruv, not like Rav, this is a big question of Rav, because Rav says you can't make an eruv. If you're talking about a situation that there's an eruv, then I can understand how a vessel from your house ended up in the yard. According to you, Rav, this whole halacha of Reb Shimon that you could go from a karfif to a chotzer and a chotzer to a gag and a gag to a chotzer is only when there's 0 eruv. So give me an example. Oh, your kid took it out by mistake. You're going to start being doichek. How did you get a vessel from your house into the chotzer, which you're telling me you're not allowed to do? There was no eruv. Obviously, there was an eruv. Says Gemara, I do have a good way. The person asking the question had the answer. The what? In other words, Rav Sheshes himself. Bekumta v'sudra. You probably recall, we just had it recently. I was in Chicago then, but I'll remind you with the picture. Kumta v'sudra. Here's kumta v'sudra. Basically, it's lightweight items, such as a hat or a scarf. So the Gemara is answering with those words, more or less, that you're asking me, how did I take a vessel out of my house on Shabbos and bring it into the chutzner without an eruv? I'll tell you how. I had a black hat, I had a yarmulke, I had a nice scarf, I wore it, I took it out of the house without an eruv, because I'm allowed to, it's clothing, and then I took it off in the chutzner. That's how I did it. We're not talking about a baseball bat, we're talking about clothing. Okay, so there's a way out of that question. And now,
I can't put that back on and take it to another chutzner now?
no, you could put it back on. You could. What's the problem? That's not a problem. That's not an issur to put it back on. You're asking there should be a gzeira of going from chutzner to chutzner. Now, on that, Reb Shimon says, I'm not choishish that you might lift it up and bring it to the next chutzner. That's asur, and I'm not geyser that. I'm not choishish. You're not crazy. You're not going to pick up a hat and start bringing it to your friend's house. You might put it back on, and that's fine. You're allowed to put it back on. So we're turning to Daf Tzadik Aleph Amud Beis 90 Daf in Eruvin in memory of my mother Shendel Bat Aaron Hirsch, not my mother, but Dr. Alan Listhouse's mother, and Bracha by her son Dr. Alan Listhouse, and sponsored by the Austin and Tobias grandchildren Lilu Nishmas, our Bubby Zissel Bas Reb Chaim. She was 98 years old, and she had 5 generations of unbelievable 5 generations. It's a way 5 generations of Torah mitzvah Jews. Toshma. Again, question is, when Reb Shimon says that you could carry from all 3 categories, chotzer, karfaf, gag, from one to the other, is it only according to Rav? Rav says it's only in a situation where there was no Eruv to allow you to carry from your house to your Chatzar. And the thing started off in the Chatzar, so now I can bring it to... But if I'm allowed to bring stuff out of my house, I have to be geyser. Maybe I should be chayshish. That you might carry something from your house and it'll end up in somebody's roof, or somebody's karfaf, or somebody else's Chatzar. Toshma. Anshe Chatzar v'anshe mirpeses sheshachachu v'lo yirvu. Again, another sugya that we had. Here's the picture to remind you. There's a mirpeset, and there's a chatzar. These guys made an eruv between themselves. And there's a ladder here that allows you to go up and down. Rashi points out that we learned, just as Chazara on the Masechta, we learned a ladder could act in two ways, two opposite ways. It could either act as an opening, as a door, as a petach, or it could be not. And by the way, Yaakov Rosedale, I was thinking about you. I'm telling you, I was thinking about you this morning. I said, I haven't seen you in a month. So it's great to see you. Shalom Aleichem. It could act in two ways. So we're going to act lekula. And we're going to say that this ladder is not a petach. Because if it is a petach, now you have a problem. You have the merpesek guys going into the chatzar, and they're drisas regel, they're walking there, and they're ruining everything. So we're going to say they're closed off. Ladder acts as it's closed off, nothing. Okay. So what's the problem? The lo irvu, and they didn't make an eruv. So kol shegavaya sor tfachim lemerpeset. Anything that's taller than 10 tfachim and within 4 tfachim to the merpeset. Remember, we said it has to be close to merpeset, and it's not further away from. It's not the distance between this mound, this beam, whatever it is not more than 10 tfachim away, and it's higher than 10 tfachim. The halacha is la merpeset. All the stuff is owned by the merpes. They can grab it. Now, if it's less than 10 tfachim, lechatzer. Now, here's a Rashi alert, because if you just read the word lechatzer, you're going to think, oh, the guys in the chatzar can grab it. No. Rashi says, af lechatzer. It's both of theirs. It's the upper guy and the lower guy, as we learned back then. Meaning, they're both aser. Because once you have access, two people have access to the same thing, they aser each other, no one could touch anything on that beam, because it's less than 10 tefachim. Okay. That's only in a case where there's many people, you see? Many people, 1, 2, all these doorways. A lot of people live on top, a lot of people on the bottom. Now, if there's a lot of people here, so there's going to be a bunch of stuff. So Memela, we have to be geyser that they shouldn't come to bring it into another place. Gag v'chotzer v'achsadra umer peset. Now, think for a second. What's missing here? Which word is missing? This is owned by a bunch of people, and they forgot to make an eruv. Gag, you have the rooftop. V'chotzer, v'achsadra, umer peset. There's one thing is missing here, if you notice, and that's karfaf. Okay, you have gag, chotzer, achsadra, umer peset. We're adding to the categories. Achsadra, pergola, merpeset. This is the merpeset. Kulon, rishus, achasein. That what? This is going according to Reb Shimon, obviously. Reb Shimon holds all these are one rishus, and the Gemara is medayik. Taima de lo yirvu. It's only because there's no eruv, as it says over here. They didn't make an eruv. Ha yirvu loy. That's mamish like Rav. It says here that if there's an eruv, then what? You have all these people that are going to get mixed up. They're going to start taking stuff out of their house, and it's going to go all over the place. So if there's no eruv, now we know that whatever's in the chatzar, great, that you could bring it to another chatzar, to another gag, but don't bring stuff out of your house. So that's a great raya to Rav. Says the Gemara, no, Hamani Rabbanon hi. This is not Reb Shimon. This is Rabbanon. In the Mishnah, right? We have 3 shittas in the Mishnah. We have Reb Meir, who says gag is by itself, chatzar is by itself, karfaf by itself. Then on the other hand, we had Reb Shimon. He says, no, it's all one thing. Gag, karfaf, chatzar. Then we had the middle. We had Rabbanon. Rabbanon say that a gag and a chatzar are one category. Karfaf is all by itself. Oh, beautiful. What word was missing here? It says gag, chatzar, chsad, merpeses, and karfaf was missing. because this is not going according to Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says karfav is included. Chachamim are the ones that say that it's not included. But what's beautiful is, think about it. Chachamim argue on Reb Shimon back on Amud Aleph. We're discussing when you have these three houses. Reb Shimon is of the opinion, I'm not concerned that if I bring my baseball bat into the guy on the right, the guy on the right takes his baseball bat, puts it in the center. I'm not concerned that the baseball bat is going to end up on the left, because the guy in the middle has access to the left. No, I'm not concerned. Although because it's also to go from here to here, from the right to left, and from left to right, I'm not concerned. What do Chacham say? I am concerned. Stop, don't carry anywhere. Oh. So this is the concern right over here. This is Rabbanan who say we're concerned. And this is and also fits in very well that it's Rabbanan who say that what's a category by itself? A gag and a chotzer. Karfav is its own category. Daikanami, and I'll prove it to you, the likatani karfav. Umavui. It doesn't bring the other two. Karfav and umavui. Shma mi know that it's going according to Rabbanan, not according to Reb Shimon. So don't ask me if it was Reb Shimon. The whole machlok is Rav and Shmuel. You need an eruv, no eruv, it's without eruv, is only in Reb Shimon. But once I tell you that we're not even talking about Reb Shimon, I'm talking about Rabbanan, so I don't have a kasha on Rav. Tashma. It's a case, we might have had something similar, but not exactly. Here you have 5 chatzeros, right? Every chatzer, every yard has to have 2 houses to it. So therefore 2 houses, but 5 chatzeros, and they're all open directly into a mavui. They all forgot. There was no eruv. Now the Gemara understands that there's no eruv even within each chatzar. Between these two guys, there's no eruv. Forget about the eruv to go into the mavui and to make a sheet of mavais and allow everybody to carry over here. But even within their own yard, it's also to carry. Asur lahachnis ulahoitzi mechatzer lamavi. Let's remember this line. It's asur to take things in and out from the chatzer to the mavi, like a karfav. It's asur. Umin hamavi lachatzer. You cannot go from the mavi to the chatzer. V'kelim sheshavsu b'chatzer. But if you have a baseball bat that's sitting Erev Shabbos in the Chatz, I shouldn't say baseball bat, because maybe all the English people have no idea what that is. So, a football. So the Americans will think we're talking about a football, and the English guys will think we're talking about a soccer ball, and everybody will be happy. Okay, so there was a football in the Chatzer. Mutter l'taltalam b'Chatzer. Then you're allowed to carry within the Chatzer. As I said before, u'b'mavoi asur. Now, the mavoi becomes a caramelist, so it's asur, even if this ball, let's say, was in the Chatzer before Shabbos. Reb Shimon matir. Reb Shimon says it's okay. You could go between a Chatzer and a Mavui. Shal Reb Shimon oimer, kol zman shehein shel rabim, as long as there's many people there, v'shachu v'lo yirvu. So now, we're not so concerned that there's a lot of stuff going on in the Chatzer, a lot of kelim. So we weren't geyser. Gag v'Chatzer v'achsadra u'merpeses v'karfaf u'mavui kulam shuzachasein. Look at this picture over here. Here you have it all. You have a merpeset, you have an achsadra, you have a Chatzer, you have a mavui, you have a karfaf, that's the enclosed area you store wood and stones, etc., and a gag. All what is this? 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different things. They're all, according to Reb Shimon, all considered one rishus. I could go from one to the other. Taima deloy irvu. But it seems like there's no eruv. And when there's no eruv, I don't have to be geyser that you might come to carry from within the house and it'll end up on the merpeset or somewhere else, but it's only because I didn't make an eruv. And who says that? Rav. So what do I do? This is a big problem. It says mefurish over here, shachachu kulam v'loi irvu. Mefurish. There was no eruv. That's exactly Rav who says you're not allowed to do an eruv. If there's an eruv, you can't go from a gag to chatzat karfaf to a mavui Achsadra. So what's going on here? So we have to be doichek a little bit. It's a big problem for Shmuel. My lo yirvu chatzeros bahade adadi. Wow. So Shmuel's going to have to say that not that they didn't do an eruv, they didn't do an eruv a mavoi. They didn't do a sheet of mavais. I'm sorry. My lo yirvu chatzeros bahade adadi. That's what it means. They didn't make an eruv at all between themselves. Let me see. Hold on. No. Hachazir time of the lo yirvu. However loy my lo yirvu. Hold on a second. What did you say? I just didn't read it well. My lo irvu chatzeres bahadi adodi. So even though there's a lot of kalim going on here, but since they didn't make an eruv with each other, nevertheless, the chiddush is there's no gzeira. There's a lot of stuff. I'm not geyser that you might end up somewhere else. Ha chatzeru batim irvu. So what are you telling me? You want to be doichek and say that at the end of the day, we're saying that these guys didn't make an eruv with each other. The chatzer to the chatzer. This guy and this guy to this guy, they didn't make. And that's the chiddush. The chiddush is that we're not geyser that you might take from here to there, even though you have kalim, you had an eruv. There is an eruv over here. Between these two houses, eruv. But between the two, there's no eruv. So that means there's kalim sitting around there in the chutzner, but I'm not worried that you might take the kli and go from here to there, from chutzner to chutzner. Ha chutzner ubatim irvu, v'lo irvu ktani. But at the end of the day, it says there's no eruv at all, right? Those are the words. Shachu v'lo irvu. Says Gemara, my lo irvu lo nishtatvu. So we have to say that we're not talking about eruv mamish. It's talking about the shitum of voice that they didn't make a shitum over here. That's the eruv that we're discussing that they didn't do. So Mela has nothing to do with a lot of people, not a lot of people, a lot of kalim, not a lot of kalim. They didn't make an eruv over here. So now you can pick, if you don't like this teretz, there's another two tirutzim that might fit you better. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I thought I heard the YouTube go off. Reb Shimon was talking to Chachamim. Lididi, according to my own shita, loishna ervu v'loishna loy ervu. I hold, in other words, Shmuel is talking here, in Reb Shimon. Shmuel. There's no nafkamina between whether there's an eruv or no eruv. Even if there's an eruv, I'm not concerned that I might take stuff out of my house and bring it to somebody else's chatzar. But according to you, Rabbanon, won't you agree to me, when there's no eruv, rishus achasi, that the mav and the chatzar are one rishus. In other words, you should be concerned that it's one rishus. Something might end up in another place where it shouldn't. In other words, the mavoi and the karfaf, according to Chachamim, 4 out of the 6 are one rishus that we had in the Mishnah, but mavoi and karfaf, they're in their own category. That was the middle sheet of the Mishnah. According to Reb Meir, each one is its own category. According to Reb Shimon, all 6 are one category. According to Chachamim, 4 of these, the Gag, Chotzer, Chsadra, and Mirpeset, are one category, but the Mavui and the Karfaf are by themselves. So you can't go from a Gag, let's say, to a Mavui, from a Gag to a Karfaf. That you can't do. It's considered 2 Rishuyos. Omar Mar. Let's just finish up here. We just learned, Uba Mavui Asur. Even if, we understood it, even if the Kalim were in the Mavui Erev Shabbos, not allowed to carry there. Leim Se'ele Reb Zera, Omar Rav. Is this a riot to Reb Zera in the name of Rav? Omar Reb Zera Rav. Mavui Shalei Nishtatvu Boi, a Metalton Boi Elo Ba'arba Amos. So it's a carbonas. If there's no sheet of mavois, you can't carry in it. You can carry like anything else, like a mil versus ram. You can carry also 4 amos. Ema villa mavoi also. Doesn't mean in the mavoi, it means to the mavoi. But if that's the case, hainu reisha. Now if you go back to that one line, It's like 12 lines from the top of the sugya, from the top of the page. It says, Asur lahachnis lahaitzi mechatzer lamavoi. That's halacha number 1. You're not allowed to go from a chatzer to the mavoi. So why are you telling me that halacha, the next halacha is that you're not allowed to go into a mavoi? We just said you can't go from a chatzer to a mavoi. If you tell me that the pshat is I can't carry in a mavoi, it started out in a mavoi, you have a kli that's in there Erev Shabbos in the mavoi, and I can't carry more than 4 amas in the mavoi, great. But you just told me pshat is no, you can't carry from the chatzer to the mavoi. Villa mavoi. You're not allowed to go from the chatzer to the mavoi. Okay, I already said that halacha. Why are you saying it twice? Hainu Reisha. Says the Gemara, you're right, it is twice, but it's very important to say it twice. Why? Mishnah yatirit tzrichalei. I need to tell it to you. Ma'ud the same ki pligi Rabban Alei Reb Shimon. Maybe I would think it's like Rav, that Chachamim argue and they say, if there's an Eruv, and I have a chashash that people might take stuff out of their house because they have an Eruv into the Chatzar and it'll end up somewhere else. But if they didn't make an Eruv, Chachamim agree they could go from one to the other. Kamash Malon, even when there's no Eruv, Chachamim are mechulek. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Shem Alois. Yitzi Spiro, what's going on? I haven't seen you in a while. Manishma Yitz? Regards from Chicago. You guys could try to unmute yourselves. Oh.
Eli, last night's share was a classic share.
Why is that?
It was, you had so many, the kiddos, so many different files in the Gemara, and I put it on speed 150 and understood every single word. Very, very clear.
I missed a good chart. I made a chart, Motzi Shabbos, I missed it. Should I show it to you real quickly?
Please.
No, it's not a... Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
You're going to show them the chart and everything's become unclear. We'll have to redo this here.
No, I gotta think about the next top of where somebody is. We gotta figure it out. I'm working on it.
Get some air pictures, video from the sky.
I was looking for the
Yisrael, this is the chart I missed. Only this explains one Rashi. When the Gemara says Shmuel Rabbanon, so Rashi explains why is not Shver Rav Rabbanon. A Gag to a Karfaf, because according to Rav, that a Gag is a Rosh Hayachid, so you can't go from a Gag to a Karfaf. I know it's confusing now that we and how come the Gemara says Shmuel Rabbanon, not Shmuel Reb Meir? Gzeir Astel. I'm just saying it was one of those. It was a daf that has so much stuff to it. It was incredible. Yeah.
Eli, do you want a live tour? Eli, do you want a live tour?
Yes, I do. Hillel, you should have done it during Shir, but yeah, why not? Don't wake anybody up, though. Don't wake anybody up. Hold on, we're getting a live tour of the plane. Where is he? The steward knocked him out. Here he is.